Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to this edition of Can I Kick It FC at this year because it's supposed to be an evergreen podcast. Besides that point, I'm your host as always, Elliot Barr, aka Yogi, and joining me today is one of the prominent voices, not only on X, well, Twitter. We're not going to call it X because that's a crap site. One of the prominent voices in soccer media, and one that is Mr. Tosin Makinde. How are you doing, sir?
Very, very well, man. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
I can't complain, man. I'm kind of at that point now where I've seen too much soccer,
Yeah,
so now my brain is at overload mode, and I'm like, all right, I just need to decompress from everything.
there's been way too much. I actually this is the first international break I haven't watched football in like years. So I've completely not watched anything. Only thing I've been keeping up is what happened with Nigeria yesterday, this morning with Libya, with them in Libya. But other than that, I've used this international break to really just like get off of Twitter, get off of just like social in general, and just kind of just chill. So understand that.
Yeah, I have that as well, man. Like, so we were talking about it before the show, but like, I'm a big Richmond Kickers fan,
Yep.
and normally, like, whenever the kicker season ends and we do our post show wrap up, I take like a good month long break where I delete social medias, all that stuff, because it's like I just get like an overload where I was like, yo, I just need to like burn everything and start. It's almost like a farmer where it's
Yeah.
like I have to burn the ground to start fresh for the next season.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yo, I do way too much. So,
And I think the thing is too, and I've said this about Twitter in the past and like just social in general, we shouldn't be exposed to this many people. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time because like I should know what somebody in Durban or Lagos is thinking at this very moment. I shouldn't know 40,000 people's thoughts at one given time. That's not healthy at all. So I think sometimes with humans, we need to take a break and just enjoy where we live, man. Go outside, like literally go outside and enjoy nature. Like it's
right.
fall in on the East Coast, it's beautiful outside. Go enjoy that. So
Go enjoy it. Go have some
yeah,
fun, man. Go play some footy or something.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely play on that, man. But like, first of all, I just want to say it's a pleasure having you on, man, because like you are, I think like everyone that's in black soccer media pretty much almost follows you. Like you're probably like one of the most prominent voices. I would actually like first and foremost, let's get into this name because you are of Nigerian heritage.
I am.
And I'm Jamaican, so like I understand how close we feel to our culture and our heritage and whatnot. So like, what is the full Nigerian name? Because I know I have a couple of Nigerian friends. Them names are long.
So I'm Yoruba. Specifically, we're gonna go with like where I'm from, specifically Nigeria. I'm from a place called Bekuta. That's where my dad's from. My mom's from a place called Elisha. So we grew up in a church called Celestial Church of Christ. So if you don't know what Celestial Church of Christ is, it's basically the most aggressive church in a way. It's so funny. We wear these garments called sutana, right? Like it's an all-white garment. And basically, and I'll get into the names. It's a good story. So with Celestial Church of Christ, it's like a Pentecostal church, right? You know what Pentecostal is, right? So it's like very like just in your face hardcore prayer, right? And I used to live in South London and we would go out to North London every day, like every weekend. So it's like a 40-minute drive, just insane. So at the time, the church we're going to, the way they did the naming ceremony is like you wait a week until you name your kid. So I got 12 names. So my brother has 12 names, but sister has 14. It just is what it is. Like that's just our culture, right? But my full name is Tosin Makinde. So the full name is Tosin Makinde. So only one person in the world calls me that. That's my mom. She's the only one that calls me. Not even my dad calls me that. Just my mom calls me my full name. And when you translate Tosin to English, is God is worth serving. So that's really what it was. So yeah, that's the short and skinny of like how I got my 12 names. So my dad gave me a name, my mom gave me a name, the church, my grandparents, some uncles, aunties, and yeah, I mean that's just how my name came about.
Have you ever had to write out your full name, like the full? Have you ever had
No,
to write that out?
no. And it's technically Tosin's not my real, like Tosin's my middle name, but I'm not gonna tell you the first name. Nobody's ever allowed to call me that. We leave that alone. That's the English. Again, you're Jamaican, I'm Nigerian. We both got colonized by the same people, right? The British.
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
have a technical British name, English name, but no one's ever gonna know that name.
Oh, I have a second middle name that
Yeah.
only my grandma, who passed away 10 years ago, is allowed to call me.
Rest her soul.
She's the only one that's allowed to call me that.
Yeah,
I've never shared that with anyone, but yeah, that middle name is only
again.
for her.
We don't need to know about these names. Keep it moving,
right, man. So like that is interesting. So like obviously you're from have Nigerian heritage. You spent time in London,
Mhm.
Baltimore, and whatnot. How did you come into soccer? Like, how did you come into fall into the game of soccer and even started covering the game?
So I was born into soccer. I didn't really have a choice per se. I mean, I
Yeah,
did. My dad didn't really force it on me, but when I was born in 1990, my dad actually a couple years before was on trial with Tottenham. He actually was supposed to go play for Tottenham as a goalkeeper, but he just turned it down. I don't know why. One of his biggest regrets in life, but he turned down Tottenham, and he's always been involved with football. My dad left Nigeria to come to London. He became a Liverpool fan, so he's always loved football. That's always been his thing. So he's actually recorded every World Cup, like 86, 90. They've all on VHS tapes in my house in Baltimore. So when I was born, my dad always played, my uncles played. And, growing up in London, that was kind of like the thing that you did was play football, right? That's what everybody did was play football. Like you see it everywhere. Obviously, there's other sports, there's cricket, there's rugby, but football was the main thing when I grew up, at least. So my dad in 1994, the first time I've ever went to a soccer game was November 16th, 1994. I'll never forget it because that was the day after my brother's second birthday. So me, my dad, and I was 4 years old. So it was me, my dad, his best friend, and we all went to original Wembley Stadium to go watch England, Nigeria. And Nigeria wore these one-off kits that they've never worn before. And went to Wembley at 4 years old. In my life, I was like, I love this sport. I was like, that's it. 4 years old, I knew this was going to be my life. Became a Man United fan in 1995 because Andy Cole joined. My dad's a Liverpool fan, so to piss him off, I became a United fan. So as you guys know, I like to troll a lot. So to piss my dad off early, I became a United fan. Obviously, being a troll, but to cover in football is actually funny because I never ever once wanted to make football my job. I actually moved to New York in 2014 to become in the fashion industry. That's really why
yeah.
I moved to New York, was to do fashion stuff. And it wasn't until 2018 we started Shirtless Plantain Show, which is the collective of me and the homies. And they're the ones who got me into football media. Actually, it's actually like those guys and my other friend Joel. They're the ones who said, we see something in you that you don't know. And I was like, I don't give a damn about covering soccer, man. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I love the sport, but I'm not going to make it my job. Like, I've already played, I've already, coached, referee, I've done it all, but I don't need to make it my job. So we started the Shirtless Plantain Show the summer of 2018 World Cup. And I fell in love with being in front of camera, I fell in love with storytelling about the sport. God blessed me enough where I got the job at CBS in 2020. And, that was an amazing experience for 3.5 years. You get to take this blank slate of a company like CBS who knows nothing about soccer at the time. And what you see today is what, as the second person ever hired, is what you see today. So in between like 2018 and now, I've been so lucky to have so many different opportunities in the sport and just want more, just want to cover this sport a lot more. One of my favorite things I've did this year was going to Copa America and covering Argentina, Canada, the opening game of Copa America this year. And then we also did a panel of like-minded Black people in soccer, and we're talking about what it's like to be in the sport in America. And, for me, I've loved football. I'm 34 years old. I've been in this sport for over 30 years, so I have a very unique perspective where I moved to America when I was 11 and I played in the USU system at the highest level. So I've seen an insane amount of talented kids. So when people say American kids don't have talent, I think that's sort of what makes me kind of want to do this a little bit more, is because I want to tell these stories about the kids who didn't make it. I was a ball boy for DC United when Freddie Adu was there. So I've seen it all.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen it all. I've,
Oh, man.
yeah. So for me, it's like I want to tell these stories about Black soccer people who go past the wayside. It's like when people see soccer talents now, you're seeing the kids going to Man City. You're starting to see Christian Pulisic leaving at 16, but we've always had that. So it's like, how do we tell these stories? So that's really what is motivating me every single day to continue doing this.
Man, you just dropped so much in it I want to pull apart. But I'm going to start off with the telling of the stories part because I think that's really interesting. Because I think me and you are kind of aligned in the same part, where it's like I created Can I Kick It to tell like the stories of African Americans and Black people in the sport across the diaspora. And for you, you're here telling stories about obviously about help to create like stuff like morning footy and doing the CBS stuff, things like that. Like when it comes to storytelling, do you think you want the story to come across as something where it's like, if you don't see the name, I want you to learn something from it?
I think for me, that's just naturally how I do things. I
Yeah.
naturally try to educate in a weird way, but I don't do it knowingly. Like today, for example, Daniel Maldini played, right? And his grandfather played for Italy. His dad obviously is Paolo Maldini, and he plays. So it's just like I'm when I think about soccer, I always think about the past and how do I connect to the future. So it's always like there's always a way to educate in a way, but not doing it in a preachy way. So for me, it's like storytelling is important because you learn so many different things that you never once thought about or you might have forgotten. So for me, it's like, how do I bring these stories out and how do I have fun with it? I think that's the most important thing about storytelling for me is like have fun. There's so much beauty and chaos in the sport in the men's and women's department of football. It's just like just tell these stories, have fun. Doesn't matter if you're covering USL, if you're covering the Premier League, there's always good stories to tell. So that's just what it is for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's kind of like if you care about what you're talking about, someone else is going to love it as well because they hear the passion in your voice.
For sure.
And whatnot. So, obviously, you're of Nigerian heritage. You are a Nigerian football fan. We saw the ups and downs you went through as a fan during the past AFCON. So, I want to ask you about that experience, man. Like, how is it? First of all, how is it supporting Nigeria? I feel like it's the same as supporting Jamaica, where it's like, you can be good.
Yeah.
But then the Federation is like, nah.
So again, like I said, my first ever game I saw in person was England, Nigeria, 1994. Yeah. So 96 Olympics we won. I remember that. 98 World Cup. I was supposed to go to that World Cup. Literally the day of, my dad said he's not going to take me. So he ends up going to that World Cup with my uncles. He was at the game when Nigeria beat Spain 3-2, and I was so pissed at him. But to bring this point up, we lost to Denmark 4-1. I cried hot tears, man. I'm 7 years old, about to be 8 that summer. I cried, bro. I cried so hard. So 2000 AFCON, we lost to Cameroon. We got robbed in Lagos on penalties. So I've already, by the time I'm 10 years old, I'm already used to Nigeria's nonsense. Like I'm already used to this. You're not going to break my spirit because I already know. So when we lost AFCON this year in the final, I was like, oh well. It's like, what you want me to do? Like, I already know what they're gonna do. I already know how corrupt they are. Like, for example, Eze, years ago, him, Ola Aina, and Iwobi were together at Nigeria's camp, like 2017, 2016, around there. Eze should have been called up. Now Eze's an England international. But these are the things that I've seen throughout the years. It's like, it doesn't bother me. So being a Nigeria fan is just like, you've dealt with this pain for so long that it's just like, at this point, I just collect stuff like this, for example. It's a Nike Tech that like I just like all the cool stuff Nigeria puts out. That's my sort of way of just dealing out with the pain. It's like at least we got cool kits, right? At least we look good. That's the most important thing, right? And Jamaica too, like you guys got the Adidas deal, so Jamaica kit. Again, Nigeria and Jamaica tethers, man. We're one and the same person. I really truly believe that like these two countries are mirrors. And it's always funny when I see Nigerians and Jamaicans infight. I'm like, you do know you're the same person, right? Like literally you're the same.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's
we just took a boat to get here.
Yeah, I mean, Jamaica are the main characters in the Caribbean. Nigeria are the main characters on the continent. We make the loudest music. We're aggressively proud about where we're from. And if anybody talks crap about where we're from, we're gonna show you, like, hey, don't do that. So, we're one and the same. One and the same.
Right, 100%, man. So, like, what is next for Nigeria? Because obviously, I think there's another AFCON coming up before the World Cup. Like, what's next for Nigeria coming out of the pipeline?
So qualifying for the World Cup is most important. Right now, we're struggling to qualify for the World Cup. But I think the World Cup 2026 is the most important. I think Nigeria need to really figure out, 1, the midfield, 2, the defense. We have all the forwards in the world. I don't think there's a single country that has more forwards than Nigeria. I think we just have an insane amount of talent. You have Boniface, Osimhen. It's just that's obscene in itself. And Chuba Akpom doesn't even get called up. Chuba is doing well in Ajax. So the most important thing right now for Nigeria is figuring out World Cup 2026, figuring out the coach, and figuring out the midfield and the defense. I mean, there's so many talented players that should be called up. Like Gabriel Osho played for Luton, should be in Nigeria a long time ago. Fisaya Dele Bashiru, who just scored against Libya. His brother Tom actually played for the U20 in the U20 World Cup. Tom plays for Watford. He should be called up. Rafael Ndinka, I think he should be Nigeria's number 6. He plays at Club Brugge. It's like there's so much talent, but it's just how do we get it all together? But I think Nigeria, in a weird way, is a microcosm on the pitch of the country where it's so much potential, but it's held back by greedy uncles and aunties. That's really what it is. It's like you could be so much better than what you are, but you're held back by so many just corrupt people that's just in it for themselves. You only see the short term to the long term.
That sounds about Jamaica.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing. You guys had there's so many dual internationals should have been called up a long time ago. But again, these are the things that we deal with. These are the countries that we're from, and that's the nonsense we have to deal with, right?
Right. Like I'll never forget hearing the story about how Jamaica was neck and neck with England about getting Raheem Sterling, And the thing that made Sterling choose England over Jamaica is because Jamaica FA at the time was like, "Oh yeah, that endorsement fee, you're not going to get that. We're going to take that."
Sounds
And it
about
was
right.
like no, you don't tell him that. You don't
Bro,
tell him that.
David Alaba was supposed to play for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna get into that story. David Alaba was supposed to play for Nigeria, and it's just like you look at all these talented kids like Karim Adeyemi, and the list goes on and on. Because again, here's the thing with Nigerian people: because our country is so difficult to live in, people escape and people go to other countries. They go to Austria. They go. There's not a single country in this world where Nigerians aren't. I mean, my cousin for one was playing football in Kazakhstan, so we go everywhere. There's not a
Right.
place in this earth that we don't go to. So that's when you end up having like these kids who are half Nigerian, half Polish, half Nigerian, half Swedish, and just like, yo, where is this come from? Like Antonio Nusa, he is, I think, Norwegian. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got something.
Yeah, something like that. But he's half Nigerian. Karim Adeyemi is half Nigerian, half German. It's just like, yo, this is insane. The amount of talent that we all have. So it's just trying to figure out how to get past the corruption, but that's not gonna change, man. Corruption is part and parcel of our thing, man.
Right. Well, change about the corruption part of it. I want to ask you about this because obviously you're wearing a hoodie for him, but Shirtless Plantain Show, man. Like how did you come about creating that? How did that project get started?
Mhm.
What do you guys do, and like how do you think people enjoy the impact you guys are having on the culture?
So we are for Nigerians, specifically for Yoruba people. We're all actually super close. We're like brothers, basically. Like we actually became friends more than 10 years ago at this point, 2013, 14, around there. And it never was a thing for us to actually make a brand, a football brand. We all just love, three of the guys are Arsenal fans. I'm a United fan. So we just love our teams. We just talk about football in our group chat. We're friends. And then 2018 happened, and they decided, the three homies, they're going to make a football brand, and I'm going to be the face of the brand. And I was like, wait, I don't put myself in front of camera. I don't put myself on Instagram. I don't show my face on social, period. Like, you see me in person, that's it. Like, we don't give a damn, okay? You're the face of the brand, and you're going to be in front of YouTube show. So I think in the last 6 years, we've really started to understand, like, the way we see football is very unique. We're all 30 plus, and we have so much experience in this sport. So it's like, how do we bring our colloquialisms? How do we bring the way we see the game into the world? I think that, to sum it up, we're basically a football dictatorship that just does what we want. Effectively, that's what we are. So no, it's cool, man. It's cool to have so many like-minded people just trying to build something together. I think that with Black Americans and with Black people in general, we want something that talks like us, that walks like us, that moves like us, right? When it comes to football, because we all know the game, right? Like, and I think that football is such a fun sport and such a unique way to cover it. I mean, you can go super professional and be suited up and booted up. It's like, have fun with it, man. This is just a fun sport where we're watching this year in, year out. Like, even during the international break, there's football going on. There's women's, there's men. So with us, we're just trying to bring our own unique perspective of and love of this game. That's really what it is. So yeah.
I think that's such a unique point, man, because like you said, like when it comes to African Americans and people of color, like we want to see someone like us not only on screen, but someone to talk the game with and be like, "Yo, like, did you see this? Like, did you?" Because I remember it vividly, man. Because I'm a little bit older getting into soccer. Because I started really watching soccer about the 2014 World Cup.
Okay.
And I was like really heavy in a lot of stuff. So like, I remember Syria was trying to do their anti-racism campaign, and they took like the eight face and put it into the faces of soccer balls. And I was sitting there thinking, like, there's no way how a global organization looked at that and thought that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was talking to a couple of our friends, people of color, and they were like, "Nah, bro, like, yeah, you saw it right." So it's like, I want to ask you this: like, how is it having those conversations with other people of color that are in soccer media and being like, "Yo, I'm not the only one seeing this," right?
I think at some point you become jaded, right? Especially when you watch football for so long, like I have. Look, I vividly remember the 2005 Nike Stand Up Speak Up, where Nike had, you remember the Live Strong bracelets, the yellow ones that Lance Armstrong had? So Nike had a white and black interlock one with Nike, right? So it was like Man United wore special kits, Arsenal wore special kits. Portugal had a black and white kit. So did Netherlands. I think one of the French teams, they like one team wore black jerseys, one team wore white jerseys. Like a big Nike anti-speak up, stand up, speak up. Ronaldinho was involved. Thierry Henry, when he was on Nike, was involved. Whole lot of the black players at the time, right? You fast forward to 2022, 2021. I remember vividly on CBS because I was covering this at the time when Thierry Henry was talking about racism. You could vividly see Thierry Henry getting upset about it. And in my head, the cynicism came. I'm like, yo, we were just having this campaign nearly 20 years ago, right? Like we literally were just talking about this. Nothing has changed. Thierry Henry's retired now, right? Thierry Henry's a coach and he's having to defend this. And in my head, like when I talk to other black people who are in this space and other people of color, I'm like, has anything really changed? Not really. You know, you can package it up and give people this and that. And I don't want to like offend nobody because I know some people might listen to this like, oh, he's trying to pull the race cars. Like, no, it's exhausting. Like, at what point do you get tired when like you see the producers and the people like, and not to like get people upset, but the people that make the changes are the people that are mostly white. They're going to keep it a spade a spade. And when you look at the people that they hire, it doesn't really change because remember what they said in The Wire is just like same packaging, you know, we just might spike with some procaine. That's really about it. Like nothing really changes for me because it's just like I'm seeing, you know, in 2024, Vinny's still getting racially abused. I'm seeing the same thing I saw as a teenager, as an early, like, you know, in my, you know, when I was 9, 10, I'm still seeing the same thing. So for me, it's just like I'm tired. So when I have these conversations, I have in a joking way. So I'm just like, okay, which country is going to win the racism power rankings this year? Is it going to be Italy? Is it going to be Spain? Is England going to come up, you know, from the ladder? So I'm at this point, I'm just jaded. That's really what it is. I'm just tired.
Yeah, no, I feel you. It was really big for me, like during the pandemic. Obviously, you know, here in America, it was like, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement, and all that stuff. And I think that's also when you saw, in my eyes, like the explosion of like Black soccer media. Because you had like me, For the Culture, Shea Butter FC, We Made It podcast, a bunch of others like start to boom and blossom. And we all started using our collective voice. And then we realized, like, yo, all these people are starting to reach out to us. And we're thinking they reach out to us because they know, like, oh, we can talk about the game. But they're asking us to talk about race and racism and whatnot. And then after that, we're thinking, like, all right, cool, we're making connections and building, but then nothing comes from it. And it took me a while because I was young and naive. And I realized, like, oh, they really only use Black people in soccer media just to talk about race. And like your point you said about like Thierry Henry, like I've always, to me personally, this is why I think I would not be allowed on TV if it comes to the kind of conversation, because I would tell them straight up, why are you asking me about it? I already know how it feels. Why are you not asking my white counterpart? It's not up to me. Just fix it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's just me.
No, I mean, I feel the same way. It's just like you can't keep using Black people as a prop whenever racism happens. You have to have these conversations, and this changes in the way who you hire on TV. It changes in the way who you hire as your producers, you hire as your showrunners, who you hire as your editors. All these things matter. It hires at the boardroom level, and when all the people at the top look like you're not going to see any change. When you start to change that up, that's when you start seeing change. You start actually allowing people to be themselves. But again, this is a conversation that we can have for a whole nother 4 hours, but it's exhausting. That's really what it is. It's a lot of people want to, and I think who said it the best. It was like a lot of people want to be Black, but they don't actually want to be Black until you actually realize what we go through on a daily basis. So,
oh yeah, 100%, man. Everyone loves the color, but no one loves what the color comes with.
Yep,
exactly how it goes. Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Back to Shirley's Plantation, right? Because I love so much of what y'all do. Like, what would you say for someone that has never listened before? Like, what does the show give you? Like, is it more tactics based? Is it more like a cultural conversation? Are we talking fashion? Like, what does the show really base itself in?
We are truly like a Swiss Army knife for everything. You'll hear tactical breakdowns. You'll hear jokes. You'll hear just the most rambunctious one-liners. You'll hear so much banter. But at the end of the day, we know the sport very well. We know the sport better than most people, and I'm just not even trying to toot my own horn, but these are legit. All of us grew up watching football in the 90s, like in the 2000s and the 2010s and the 2020s. So we are all guys who watch every league too. So it's not like as if we just cover one league. We cover Serie A, Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, League On. And from time to time, we'll cover different things. We also have a USA edition where people cover the MLS and they'll cover the NWSL. So it's like we try to amalgamate everything into one podcast where it's just like you'll get everything that happened in the weekend. So, for example, if racism happened, we'll talk about it. But you'll hear it like it's like hearing like your cousins talk effectively.
Yeah.
Imagine your cousins talking shit about football. That's literally if I can sum it up. Just imagine you and your cousins during Thanksgiving just talking about sport. You know how like during Thanksgiving you watch NFL during Thanksgiving with your cousins. Imagine that. So it's just like we're just like a big family that talks about our favorite sport and in the most unique way that we can.
Yeah, man. I mean that sounds like a good podcast there, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, I think it makes it easier for like, because being here in America, I think a lot of people are African Americans are getting into soccer and they're looking for those things to connect with. And it's like a lot of our, so I went to HBCU, JC University, we just had a homecoming. And every year, like, I've gone back. A lot of my friends are like telling me, like, yo, watch this game, or like, yo, I just got this kid. And it's like, I can see them starting to grow and like starting to enjoy the game. And then ask me like, "Yo, do you know of any like, podcasts or anything like that, man?" And I reckon I tell them all the time, like, "Yo, check out like find other Black soccer media people and follow them, and then see how they view the game, and then you'll start to learn more from it."
No, for sure.
And it makes it easier, man.
Yeah, it does. And it's beautiful for me to see how much the sport has grown because I remember when I moved here, man, it was tough to watch football. Like I'm watching this intense of sports. We're watching on like, just the most illegal ghetto cable ever. And it's just like, if you love something that much, you'll figure out a way to watch it. I was still watching games in the 2000s before now. And now like it's so accessible to watch football everywhere. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. My favorite example of how much it grew was during was it the 2019, 2020 AFCON around then? I lived in Bushwick and I'm walking home and I'm watching Nigeria on my phone. I'm like, yo, I couldn't do this in 2004, but I'm walking in Brooklyn watching Nigeria on my phone. This is insane. So you can see how much it's grown through technology, through people, how much love. And you've seen, I was in the gym this morning, kid wearing a Man City jersey, didn't like it, but I'm like, yo, that's so fire. Like, he doesn't even know how much football I love, how much I love the sport. But you're seeing kids now just walking around wearing jerseys, people just enjoying the sport. And it helps like these next few years is going to be peak for American soccer. We got the World Cup here. We got the Club World Cup here. We also got possibly the Women's World Cup coming here too. So there's so much just happening in America, and that's just going to help it grow.
Man, it's I feel like this is going to be like another like soccer boom. Like you can kind of look like every 10 years, there's like a soccer boom that happens. And like I feel like in 2026, really 2028, like you're gonna see like another big explosion, like another boom that's gonna happen. Yes. I want to ask you this question, kind of like pivot into that. Like I've brought up a couple times of like the Black soccer media soccer boom that happened in like 2018, 2019. For someone that's like, you're kind of like the apex of it. Like you started it and whatnot. Like, how was it seeing all these different Black media podcasts or writers and stuff like start to emerge and come into their own voices and whatnot?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful for me because there's so many unique perspectives, right? Like you said that you started like 2014, right? Like, and for me, somebody who's watched this and played and done everything my whole entire life, where I remember, for example, like 96 FA Cup, like Eric Cantona scoring a win against Liverpool. Like I remember these things. To see people coming in, it is nice because you have a unique perspective that I might not have, right? That like you see a game differently than I do. And it's always nice because we all should work more together. I think that's really the thing that I love too, is it's like there's so many unique and fresh perspectives. And it's like I can never ever hate somebody else coming to the industry. I can never hate somebody else trying to bring something because keep knocking down the door, man. I think that a lot of us should be in much more prominent positions. A lot of us should have a lot more opportunity, but keep knocking down the door and keep trying because a lot of us are here and it's time for us to kind of really show. And the thing that like really makes me laugh is I love whenever I see English people say, oh, you're an American. No, you don't know this sport. I'm like, listen, a lot of us know the sport better than you, but that's neither here nor there. But this is beautiful. I think it's just really, really nice to see a lot more Black people really getting into and doing their own thing.
Yeah. I always laugh at your tweet where you're like, yo, I hate to find out when Man United fans started watching like Ferguson.
Yeah.
So as a fellow Man United fan, I'm gonna break your heart. I literally started watching soccer in the 2014 World Cup. I watched the 2010 World Cup, but I was also like, big Black kid in college playing football. I was like, I'm not watching soccer.
Yeah.
So 2014, I started watching, and I was like, my friend at the time had a Man United scarf.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, all right, I stopped following them. Like, any place to work out. He was like, yeah, like literally, our new manager is the head coach of Netherlands. From that point, and I saw how the Netherlands played, I was like, oh, Man United could be fun. That would be cool to follow. I was so disappointed after that.
Listen, these last 11 years of United fan have been some of the worst, but also some of the funniest. Because again, being a fan of this club for nearly 20 years, since 30 years, because 95. Yeah, I've been a fan since 95. It's like you've seen everything. And I feel so bad because I'm just like, yo, I really, really wish y'all got to experience what it was like to actually be the most dominant team, not just in England, but the whole entire world, where United really are like the pinnacle of a football club. I think the only club that is bigger than Man United is Real Madrid, and Barcelona fans might be upset, but I generally feel Madrid is the only club bigger than United. And it's unfortunate because now you're starting to see the rise of social, and you're starting to see a lot more people getting into the sport. So they're becoming fans of the Chelseas and the cities, and Arsenal's finally getting better. And you're starting to see a lot more newer faces, and people troll United. I'm just like, I don't get offended by troll anymore because I'm just like, bro, I done seen so much of United winning that like maybe it is penance for us winning that much. Like maybe we sometimes need to suffer, you know. Sometimes you need to get knocked down a little bit to realize, like, hey, we did have it good, you know. So,
see, and for me, I made the comparison to my wife because she was like, "What is it like being a United fan?" And I was like, honestly, it's like being a fan of the Cowboys. like we're probably like the Cowboys. Like, we were good in the '90s. We had a decent strength in the early 2000s, and then after that, it just got worse.
And a stingy owner who doesn't want to pay Derrick Henry. Thank God he didn't do that. I'm grateful as a Ravens fan. Thank you, Jerry Jones.
Look, as a Titans fan, if we y'all win the Super Bowl, I'm claiming 25% of it.
Hey, listen, you can, because Ray Lewis did run it. Ray Lewis did knock over Eddie George, so you can't take that. You can't take that.
Yeah, that's the recovery for that.
Hey, listen, we did take Steve McNair, we took Samari Rolle, we also took Derek Mason. So you know,
it's always been a weird connection there.
Yeah,
it's weird. Man.
It's only fair, man. It's only fair. You can be part of us. It don't matter.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that, man. So once again, I'm gonna ask you this, like, for you as a soccer media, when you got to CBS, like, how was that whole journey? And seeing how, because growing like you know this in America, like the real big soccer channel was Fox and ESPN, and then CBS kind of like latched on. So how was it being there? Like you said, like the second person in the room.
Yeah.
And seeing how CBS has kind of pushed soccer media and all this stuff forward.
So I would have to first of all give NBC thanks for what they've done. NBC really, really killed it with the Premier League. They're the ones who reintroduced Ted Lasso to the world. They're the ones who did all of that. So their market, again, like I come from an advertising marketing background, right? Like everything for me is always trying to figure out like the why, like who created this ad, who created this copy. Like that's how I think when it comes to like media, right? Like I'm a big ad guy. That's, you know, I've worked at some big agencies in the past. So seeing what NBC did was like really just a big runway, right? They cleared the lane, like they changed everything. Shout out to Carl Martino, shout out to Rebecca Lowe, shout out to two Robbies, Tim Howard. They all are crushing it with what they've done. So then when TNT had the Champions League, you remember, I think everybody remembers when TNT Bleacher had that.
Yeah, with Steve Nash and all those.
Yeah, no offense to them, but it wasn't good, right? It wasn't that good, but it was very casual, right? It was very casual, and like you can see the idea of what they were trying to build, but the execution wasn't there at all. And shout out to my guy Mo Adu, because Mo Adu, like he was there too. Kate Abdo was there. Forgot who else was there. Steve Nash was there, obviously. But
what's his name? He owns a club in Spain. I can see his face. Stu Holden. There you go.
Yep, Stu Holden was there. So CBS obviously took the rights from them because CBS was going to get it anyway, but CBS took it early. So I was very lucky because, you know me, I talk a lot of shit on Twitter. Somebody followed me from CBS and I got the job because of a connection. So I was the second person I had in the social media team. until my manager came in, and it was a blank slate, bro. Like
Yeah.
I had access to Champions League games from 1955. Like literally, I had
Jesus.
the database. So when we were doing things in the first couple of months, it was just throwing stuff at the wall, making it stick, trying to make it stick, trying to make it stick, trying to figure out what's our cadence, what's our flow. And obviously, as time moved on, CBS got the rights to more leagues and more access to different things. So I think as the more leagues came across, and the more our team filled out, and the more we actually had a better strategy, and it was a great thing that we figured out what to do and how to write copy and things like that. It just became a formula, and it just took off on its own. When you have a great product, you don't touch it too much, right? You just let the product speak for itself. So Kate, Thierry, Micah, Jamie, brilliant chemistry all between them. And that's all natural. Like I know people's like, oh, is that scripted? No, that's all natural. That's all them. And what we did as a social team was really just elevate everything that you saw. So whether it was a goal, whether it was whatever happened. So I was very lucky that I got to see like the machine and see what it's like behind the scenes of a big corporation, So it was a great experience for me there for 3.5 years. And don't want to get into what happened when I left, but I left and been doing my own thing ever since. But it was a blessing because, as a black kid, as a black man in America, getting to work corporate and making, being part of this machine was insane because not too many of us are afforded these opportunities to really build something that's lasting, So I was there when we had barely like 30,000 followers on all social media platforms. I left when it was about 7-8 million. So, to be part of that is a blessing in itself. And I'm just grateful every day. So yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time.
Yeah. Do you ever just sit back and just look at it and be like, yeah, I had a part of that. Like I'm the reason why, so many people are jaded or like upset about CBS content.
I mean, some days, there are days, let me see if you can see. I'll tilt my camera. That ball up there is a CBS ball with all like the things, some of the things, some of the properties that they owned at the time. And I do sometimes look at it and I think that, it's hard to navigate the football space when you're trying to freelance. I think that when you're trying to find opportunities, when you're trying to find the right agency, the right places to kind of, and I think to sum it all up, to find the right opportunity is very hard because you're knocking down doors, you're asking questions. You're like, why can't you believe in me? Like, yeah, I didn't go pro, but I know the sport. I think sometimes take a step back. It's like, I did do this though, but I did do this, and I did do that, and I do run my own brand with my homies. So it's just like sometimes you need to take a step back and realize that, hey, this life that we live, every day is a new opportunity to do better. So yeah, there are times where it does get dark. It's just like, listen, I did do something that is really impactful in the world, So that in itself, sometimes I'm just like, okay, now I can calm down a little bit. I did do that. Yeah.
I think that's so easy, man. Especially because I think it's real easy to forget that about like what you have done and the impact that you're having because you're always looking at it as like, all right, this person's not believing in me. This isn't going for me. Why am I getting this opportunity?
Yep.
Especially when you're right, like when you're freelancing as being a black man in soccer media, you're kind of like, yo, I'm already up against it. Like, why are I getting the breaks of guys that I know that are not put out the same content? Or the thing that irritates me the most is people getting the rise for like trolling content. Like that irritates me a little bit. But then I have to sit back and realize like there's a reason that I'm not being put in that lane is protecting my mental.
Yep.
And it's very easy to be in that space of like, yo, like I want to be pissed, I want to be mad, I want to be the angry black man, but I also got to remember like LeVar Burton said it best, and in the show, I don't know if you ever see the show Clip on FX.
No,
it's the actor portrayal of the Clippers is horrible.
Are you talking about the Clippers? Oh, I've seen a little bit. I quit in between, but I've seen a little bit. It was that bad, but yeah.
It's bad. But LeVar Burton said a really strong line that I think was good about like how, I can be the angry black man, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of sponsors, but I know that's not going to get me nowhere in the long run. Pretty much the terms of it, and that's how I feel like a lot of us in soccer media feel. It's like we can burn the earth. And it's like, all right, what am I getting in return?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are very frustrated because a lot of us should be further along in our careers. I mean, shout out to I'm trying to remember their name. I got to look it up. World Soccer Talk. I'm sure you probably saw my tweet the other day when last week when they were like, oh, why isn't there not a lot of American people in studio? And I was just like, in my head, I was just like, I mean, the answer is right there. And I'm not even trying to throw shade to nobody. it's hard. Like, trust me, like being in front of camera and speaking in front of live TV is hard. Reading a teleprompter is hard. All that is a very difficult job. I think a lot of people see people on TV and think, people make it look effortless. And shout out to the many Black men and women who are killing it every single day, no matter what sport you're in, no matter if you're in the news or not, whether, whatever, it's a hard job to do. And I appreciate that. However, when it comes to soccer, I feel like there's so many voices that aren't being shown. And it's very hard because when you're Black and want to be in front of camera, you want to do a lot of things on soccer media. If you're not an ex-pro, it's not going to happen for you. And if it does, it's going to take a while. And I don't really see too many I don't see many people who aren't ex-pros in front of camera. There's maybe one who's prominent, and other than that, everybody else is a former pro. So, that's really, really hard to try and crack it.
Yeah, that is, man. And you can live in that frustration and whatnot, but I think like I always revert back to thinking of like, all right, if I'm going to live in this frustration, what am I going to do with it to push myself and my brand forward and use it as a fuel instead of being in a detriment.
100%.
So like for you, man, like do you have any advice for those that, I mean, obviously we have listeners of all different diaspora, but do you have any advice for those that are looking to get into soccer media? Like what advice would you give them?
Do your own thing. Number one, build your own brand. Number two, like have a really good heart, man. Like, and understand like the journey is hard, and that if you have a clean, pure heart, things are going to happen for you. I think that you do get frustrated. Don't voice your frustrations on social. Have a good group of people who you can trust, where you can vent your frustrations to. Number three is just keep knocking down the doors, man, and collaborate with like-minded people. We mentioned this before we recorded, but Issa Rae has this one quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try and paraphrase as much as I can. She said, network this way, like together, and pull yourselves upwards. And there's so many of us trying to do these things, right? Like, Raheem is killing it. Elisha's killing it. Jessica Blatt's killing it. You mentioned Shea Butter. They're killing it. So many different like-minded Black people that's just doing so many great things in the sport. When I look overseas to England, when I look at like the cohesion, also shout out to my guy L. L is killing with 2 Cents and everything that he's doing with 40 Mag. Like they're all killing down there in Atlanta. So I say to say this, when I look at UK, right? Like shout out to SDS Pod, shout out to all those guys like Cam, Liaz, and all those guys. They're all killing it over there. But they've built themselves an ecosystem, right? Where it's all plug and play. Like everyone has their own thing, but they're all together and they all elevate each other. And I think that for us, the one thing is build a big Black soccer community. I think that all of us should really be in this ecosystem where all together we all lift each other up. So it's a competition because everyone's trying to get the one Black token position, but it's also just like break down the doors where we don't have to fight for that one token position, So if sum it up, basically have a good heart, keep going, and just keep driving because there's nothing but opportunity coming up in the next 2-3 years, especially with the World Cup. So just keep pushing on them doors and never, ever be afraid to ask for help. Never, ever be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, honestly, man. And I just want to say thank you because there's been a lot of times where like I forgot how we got in contact with each other, honestly. But I know like we just started DMing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a lot of times, man, when you poured into me, I poured into you, and it's helped me out as someone that, I had to learn about the game of soccer like in my late 20s, but I've been like more than thankful to have like a person like you in the corner to learn from, man. And this podcast has been meaning to come for a while, so I'm glad we finally got the chance to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I'm always like all ears for everybody, man. Like I think, especially someone who's loved this game since a kid, I just always want to help people out in any sort of way because there's some things I'm not good at, there's some things I'm good at, and it's always just like, how do you help, each other out, and how do you uplift each other? So that's really it.
Yeah. But I think that's a good point for us to end on, man. So once again, I mean, I know what but where can others who are privy to your amazing tweets go where to follow you at?
Don't follow me on Twitter. I'm not tweeting as much anymore. But my Twitter is TSNMKND. MKND. Is my first last name with no vowels. But really follow the Shirtless Plantain Show. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Well, not Facebook. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Trying to do a lot more TikTok. So follow the brand, follow the guys, man. We are trying to like really build this whole entire soccer system together, man. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, man. And honestly, man, I just want to say one more time, thank you for taking the time out of your day, popping on the show. Listeners, We just want to say thank you for taking time of your day for listening to our show, because without you, we couldn't do this and we wouldn't want to do this. As always, our shows are evergreen, so take the chance to go back, listen back to our further podcast where we talk about Black soccer culture and history. And with that being said, as always, be easy and be safe, and we'll holler at you guys in the next episode. Peace.